Hey YouTube, this is Talking Crazy 88, back again with another podcast for you. Wanted to do a quick podcast on reflection and remembrance of Hurricane Katrina 10 years ago on August 29th, 2005, all the way to the aftermath of September 2nd, 2005 to September 2nd, 2015. 10 years. 10 years where a natural disaster and the failed levees or levees that exploded, however you want to slice it, broke and flooded the city, causing tremendous damage, tremendous great loss of life, and federal and state and federal government ineptitude in rescuing black people, and left them without any food, shelter, medical care, 95-degree heat and humidity. The survivors were left roaming around for food and shelter and clothing and medical attention. Many people died, and missing bodies, missing children, because there was reports of missing people, missing children, missing families that were separated. Then you got white trash hillbilly vigilantes running around shooting at black folks who were labeled as looters. You know, it's so funny when I remember it 10 years ago. The news stations would loop people breaking into stores and stealing various items, mainly survival items such as clothing, sneakers, boots, whatever, food. You know, there were also other reports of looters, well, so-called looters, stealing useless items such as TVs, electronic items, PlayStations, whatever. I'm reflecting back 10 years to that day when I saw this whole thing unfolded on the news outlets such as CNN, Fox News, CN, MSNBC, and I reflect back to the 10 years from that day as 10 years ago. And I actually saw my people suffering. I was helpless to go to do anything for black people, U.S. citizens, who were labeled as refugees in their own country. U.S. citizens, man. And it took 2 weeks before George W. Bush did anything for these people. These people had to wait 2 goddamn weeks for food, shelter, to get out of that sweltering Superdome that they were herded in, that they couldn't leave, or else they would have got shot by the crooked New Orleans Police Department, who then took orders, marching orders, to shoot at so-called looters. That's what happened at the Danziger Bridge, where 4 cowardly police officers shot and murdered and injured people on that bridge, searching for searching for assistance. I learned something that day, that year, in one of my in my second home of New Orleans, Louisiana. That's my second home. I went to school down there for a little while. I have a certain kinship with the city and the people down there. I was left helpless. But you want to know what's so surprising to me? That the black folks down there were helpless themselves. They did not have a plan of self sufficiency. There was nowhere for them to go because they wasn't expecting the levees to break. The levees. Let's talk about the levees. The levees were poorly maintained for years, and people were warning the city, the state, even the federal government was warned that if there's no adequate care in maintaining or fixing the cracks or or just simple maintenance of the levees, that this would that they were bound to break eventually and and cause a natural disaster that caused a great loss of black human life. This is not an anniversary, people. This is not a goddamn anniversary, so this is nothing to celebrate. The people that survive that torture is still feeling the effects of psychological issues till this day. You got people all over, citizens of New Orleans, residents of New Orleans, spread out all over the country, have no way of getting back or have any interest in coming back to that city. Or the ones that want to come back are unable to because there's no adequate housing for them. They should have top priority in line in coming back to the city where they grew up, where they had generations of families that grew up in that city. George W. Bush came back to New Orleans with the children who were a little bit, who were babies at the time when Hurricane Katrina happened, the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And they had to endure torture, had to undo going without food, water, shelter, or medical care. And the rest of the country just stood around doing nothing. Very few people did anything or were allowed to do anything. Because I know if it was me and if I had the money, I would fly down to Atlanta, rent a bus, drive in to New Orleans and get some of the people out to Houston, Texas. These were U.S. citizens, people. These were black people who were U.S. citizens, and they were treated like they were second class, third class, fourth class citizens in this goddamn country. So this is not anything celebratory. Because for me, going back 10 years, August 29th, 2005, that's a day of anger for me. That makes me angry. That makes me feel helpless as a U.S. citizen in this country. If there was a natural disaster, I would be put on the back burner. I would be left to die. And these people were left to die, people. These people were left to die. by the own government that they had faith in. We had an idiot president, George W. Bush. Now, you may see pictures of them taking selfies with the children that of the survivors of Hurricane Katrina, thinking that this is a wonderful event. You see George W. Bush dancing with the citizens, but that's an attribute to the people down in New Orleans. All right, that's how they are. With me, I am not that forgiving. Okay, I'm not that forgiving to a president who didn't give a fuck about black people in the city who were U.S. citizens. Took 2 goddamn weeks to get these people out of the Superdome into some shelter in Houston, Texas. Took them 2 goddamn weeks. This is nothing to celebrate. What's to celebrate? What's to celebrate? A city that's still under repair? A city that's still reeling? The city that finally that had the people had to elect a white mayor because half the goddamn residents were all over the country. They couldn't come back to vote in the election. We had a crook, Ray Nagin. Yeah, he was a crook. He was a crook. Yeah. God bless him for being an effective leader during that time, in my opinion. He stayed behind until all the people got the hell out of New Orleans. But he was a crook. He was just a typical Louisiana politician that's crooked and corrupt. I'm going to play this video because that was just the tip. What I just described during Hurricane Katrina was just the tip of the iceberg, people. There were white trash hillbillies shooting at black folks, black survivors, who were and were laughing about it. They were laughing about shooting and harming black people. Black people who were survivors. Wasn't looting. Was just seeking shelter and assistance. And they were torturing black folks in Algiers Point, in Gretna. Torturing them for 2 goddamn weeks. If it was me, after that was over, I would have picked off, I wouldn't have been surprised. Nobody would have been surprised if I had gotten a gun and started shooting at some of my white neighbors for pointing a gun at me. In my own neighborhood, in my own property, thinking that I'm some sort of goddamn looter. But that's white supremacy for you people. Hurricane Katrina is an example of white supremacy right in front of your face. Racism, white supremacy, dead in your face. I'm certain when Hurricane Sandy hit New York City, yeah, there was a few people that lost, but these people got money. The white people got assistance. They got money. They got to rebuild. And they rebuild very quickly up in New York City. After Sandy hit, the island of Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, shut down, people. Gas lines. For the next month and a half, there was lines for cars to get gas because there was a gas ration. You didn't know that, people. I guess y'all didn't know that. Public transportation shut down for a week. Businesses closed for a week, people. I was out of work for a week. These people lost a lot more in Hurricane Katrina, more than we can bargain for. The federal government owes these people a debt of gratitude. They owe these people. They owe these people more than what they're asking. The people who are still in other places of the country other than New Orleans, Louisiana, should be able to get home. They should be able to build on these empty lots that they have, build houses for the people to come back to New Orleans. It's their city. They belong there. Why isn't the government helping him? Just another slap in the face for black people, gang. Well, listen, let me get on out of here. Let me cut this podcast short. I don't want to talk too much about it. It's just my reflections on it. That nothing has really changed for black people. But before I go, I want black folks to look at Hurricane Katrina back 10 years ago as a lesson. A lesson that needs to be, that black folks need to learn to this day, that the government, the federal government, state government, city government, they don't give a fuck about you. And if there was another emergency like this, you would be left blowing in the wind. You would be left to fend for yourself, people. That's why this war, whatever this war we have against black men and black women and other black folks, we need to cut that shit out. We need to cut that shit out between the battling each other and come up with a code of conduct. We gotta stop with all this goddamn entertainment, being entertained all the time. The white supremacists are not. They're not focused on entertainment. They're focused on survival. The white race is focusing on survival mode. They're in survival mode, people. That's what happened down in Hurricane Katrina 10 years ago, when you got white people shooting at black people. They were in survival mode. They were protecting their neighborhoods. They were protecting their neighborhoods, their white women, their property from looters, aka black folks. So this should make black folks come up with a plan of action on surviving. Number one, you should always have a second place to go just in case there's an emergency, people. So you can just get the fuck up out of there. Number two, stock up. You should always have, and that goes for me to 30 days of food and water. At least 30 days worth of food and water. As a matter of fact, I got to get me a case of water I got to get me a case of water just in case something pops off. Number three, never ever give up your guns. I don't give a fuck what a police officer says that you got to give up your gun. You don't give up your guns. You go out there, if you get a concealed carry weapon permit and you have a cache of weapons in your basement, I don't want to hear you giving up your guns to no goddamn cop. Fuck him. You put a bullet in his head before you give up a gun. Your gun. Because you see, you're going to need it because the police are not going to protect you. Matter of fact, they're going to be the ones shooting at you. and murdering you, like they did in the Danziger Bridge. They murdered people. These were murderers, trained murderers. They were convicted, and their convictions were vacated, and they gotta stand trial again. Get the fuck out of here. And you wonder why I don't feel sorry for any goddamn cop that gets shot. They get a bullet in their head. I don't give a fuck about police officers. I don't give a fuck about their families. I don't give a fuck what happens to them. I'm not going to do anything to them. I'm not advocating anybody go out and shoot police officers because that's a stupid thing to do. Because you're in no position to start I am not in the position to start a war with anybody. I'm not in the position to tell anybody to go after police officers. That's a stupid thing to do. I don't advocate it. But whatever happens to a cop in the line of duty, hey, who cares? They don't care about me. They don't care about the people down in New Orleans. They didn't give a fuck about them. God bless General Russell Henry, 4-star general, came down there after 2 weeks and got shit done. That's a brother that got shit done. And I have a lot of respect for General Russell Henry. That's a real man. That's a man. He ain't no goddamn punk like most of y'all. Got things done. Didn't rely on police. Didn't rely on the city officials. He just got it done. These people needed to get out of the Superdome in the Houston to be clothed, fed, ward, hydrated, medical attention, which they wasn't getting in the Louisiana Superdome at that time. Unbelievable. Unfucking believable. But like I said before, I'm not advocating any harm goes to any police officers out there. If you're doing the right thing in life, I'm not talking to the ones that are doing the right thing, who are not abusing the citizens where they serve. I'm talking to the dirty cops out there who like to torture, abuse, put fake, false charges on citizens, write bogus citations on citizens, just to get them in the system, just so they won't lose their job. To me, you're a coward. You're a crooked cop. You're a coward, and you deserve everything that happens to you. I don't give a fuck about you. I wish somebody had gone after Brian Asenia, who roughed up that sister, Sandra Bland. Roughed her up. I couldn't even hear. I couldn't listen to that. I couldn't listen to that anymore after she was on the ground complaining about how this bitch ass nigger, white trash nigger, slammed her head on the ground and arrested her for no goddamn reason. And you think I give a fuck about police officers? Fuck y'all. But this isn't about police officers. That's another podcast right there. This isn't about that. This is about 10 years of reflection on Hurricane Katrina. This should be a lesson learned for black folks that we need to get our shit together, people. We're not ready. We're not ready for an emergency. We're not ready for when another emergency comes up, people. We're not ready. You're not ready. We're not ready. But I will be ready. And most of my listeners will be ready, because I'm going to give them information on how to survive in a national emergency. I don't know which podcast on the next podcast that I'm going to be doing. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I'll let you guys know when I'm going to put that podcast together. All right. Well, listen. Let me get the fuck up out of here. This is Talking Crazy 88, and I am out of here, people. And oh yeah, people, let's be careful out there. All right.